Firefighters say they applied the lessons they learned from a scrapyard fire 5 years ago when they tackled another blaze at the same site this morning.
Trains were halted and Civil Defence urged thousands of people downwind of the industrial park in Favona to stay indoors because of the smoke. Adam Hollingworth reports.
5 years on, the same metal scrapyard, the same reaction to another huge fire.
Much the same as 2018 when they had another fire here, so it's hopefully under control now, but we'll know. It'll take them another day probably to figure that one out. So there's another emergency alert. Time to get out, I think. Safety E, number one.
Civil Defence today issued several emergency alerts, telling residents to stay indoors because of the smoke, which many people across South Auckland heeded.
We're watching that because obviously the wind's moving, so it's actually coming towards us more than it was. And some of our windows are quite old, so some of the smell is getting into the buildings.
Flashback to March 2018, Newshub was here back then, as cars, bikes, scaffolding, roofing iron exploded into life. This is a huge undertaking for the fire service, and Fire and Emergency New Zealand say they learned lessons that have given them greater control this time round.
Obviously resourcing up as quick as we can and actually liaising well with management to use their equipment that they have on site to help us break down these piles.
There is CCTV footage of the fire, which started on a pile of scrap about to be processed around midnight. But the cause could remain a mystery.
Quite often these days, lithium-ion batteries are becoming more of a challenge for us. Could have been one of those. It may not. We just don't know, and we may never know.
The smoke has been an issue as far as Sylvia Park and Penrose. We've traced this plume of smoke back, and it goes for several hundred metres in that direction. And on a windy day, it smells just as acrid in Otahuhu as it does here. 1 kilometre away at PKG's Classic Bakery, the air was still heavy and pungent.
I thought that something burned in my soul, and I'm very scared.
Just a few hardy souls were braving it at lunchtime.
Oh, that stinks, yeah, no, it's bad, yeah. It seems fine, I can eat the pie.
It also meant train services were halted on the Otahuhu line as buses picked up the slack. And Fire and Emergency New Zealand says expect flare-ups to continue despite the water being sprayed at 300 or 400 litres a second.
It's metal burning, some of it near the centre of the pile will no doubt be in excess of 600 degrees, so we're not near it, but a lot of the water that we're putting onto it is turning to steam.
The message, don't expect the fire to be out for several hours yet. Adam Hollingworth, Newshub.